Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the front office show. It's Friday. You know what that means.
Front office Black Friday. I don't know. Front office Friday. Let's go.
Front office Friday shopping edition. Let's go. Keith, have you done any Black Friday shopping today?
I have not. As you know, I don't know if I've said it on the show. We are foregoing a traditional Christmas. I know I've talked about it on the show before. We had a bunch of family health stuff go on this year in our family, and we are packing up and leaving town. We're going on a cruise over Christmas this year, so we're foregoing any kind of present. So I'll actually be watching Christmas Day games on a cruise ship, like in the middle of the Caribbean, which is going to be different, and we'll see how that goes. And I'm kind of excited for it. But yeah, so we're not doing any big gifts or anything like that. So no Black Friday shopping. I've got my eyes on a couple things, and if they do like one of those deals like later today, I may jump on it. But those are more not Christmas related. That's just in general stuff I want to have.
Yeah, I'm doing the same. Keeping a close. Well, not going on a cruise for Christmas, but which sounds awesome.
With me. Man, that would have been a blast.
That would have been fun. We could have found a way to record something from the ship. It might take us 5 hours to upload it, but we could figure it out. So I have done a little bit of shopping. Have not actually bought anything though, so I don't know if that counts. But I've looked around, and I always find that when I look, if it's something I'm really paying attention to, what the trick now is, you get retailers that like bump the prices up right before. So then when they say, oh, discounted by X% or whatever, it's the same as what it was before. So I've been a little bit underwhelmed in that regard, but I have actually been hoping to find Black Friday cruise pricing now that you mentioned that. And I could say that the deals just aren't that great from what I've seen, but I'm going to keep looking. I'm going to keep on it.
Yeah, we got this one was I think folks know we used to work for Disney. We still have family that works for Disney. So we're going on a Disney cruise, which is a pretty cool. Pretty deeply discounted thing. So yeah, but it'll be fun. But we it's funny too. Like now our daughter is a freshman in high school, so Christmas just isn't like they say. She's not into like toys and stuff, which kind of bums me out because at least when she was into toys, like it was so fun, right? As an adult, like it was like, oh, I'm gonna go look at this toy, I'm gonna go look at that toy, like and then you kind of would have some fun with it. But yeah, it's it just, I guess that's what happens as you get older. Now it's like, I just want money and I want to buy jewelry and, stuff. And it's like, that's not fun. Like, can we go back to buying Paw Patrol stuff? And
that's what I like. That's funny. That's funny that you mentioned that. Our daughter just decided the other day, like a week ago, that she is officially beyond Paw Patrol now. Yeah, and we're like, oh man, we got rid of her Paw Patrol toys and everything. We're like,
brutal.
Rough.
Oh, wow.
All right. We should get into some NBA talk here. Yeah, let's talk basketball. Let's go here. Cam Johnson is injured, so he's not worth a first. Oh, I thought he's back and playing. Unless there was a new injury that I didn't see over the holiday thing. I know he got banged up in one game, but then he came back the next game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless I'm wrong.
Yeah. So no, I don't think so. I think he's back in there. We got a question on Twitter. A guy who he's a diehard listener, but he is around the world, so he does not always get to listen to the show live. So he always listens the next morning. So that'd be good. Andreas Havgard is his name, and he said which teams should blow it up this season. So I thought that was a fun topic we could get into.
Well, I mean, I think the team that, and Jake just had a piece, Jake Fisher just had a piece about the Chicago Bulls. I think by blow it up, I basically mean, trading away your veteran guys. I don't think they should trade away their younger guys, but trading their veteran guys. Yeah, the Chicago Bulls, I think, have got to be at the top of the list as a team that should make some moves. The Portland Trail Blazers, and once again, moving the veteran players. When we're looking at like a Jeremy Grant, somebody like that, they're another team that will be up there on the list. Perhaps the Utah Jazz, the Toronto Raptors. But Keith, let me ask you this, because I think this is the interesting one. What the hell do the Brooklyn Nets do now? Because they are surprisingly better than any of us expected. I looked, I believe they still are. I'm assuming anyway. They're 8th seed in the Eastern Conference right now, and they've actually proven to be a tough out for a lot of teams, or a tough night for a lot of teams. So what does Brooklyn do with their surprising success? Do they stay the course and sell off players and try to build for the future and get a high draft pick, or do they say, well, we've stumbled into something here and let's go?
Yeah, they're 9-10. They are 8th seed in the East, and I think you 100% rip the rug out from underneath that and trade guys if you get the right offers. I don't think you give anybody away. Maybe you might feel a little bit differently on a couple guys on expiring contracts because you might just want to move them along, like Dennis Schroeder and guys like that, especially if there's like very little chance they'll be back a year from now, and you bottom it out. I think there's a lot of Nets fans. I get in my mentions, I get emails from them, I get comments on articles I write that are like, what are we doing? Like, why, like we need to start losing games here. And I think that is the I think they're fine if this team is like, hey, we had deals for Schroeder and Dorian Finney-Smith and Cam Thomas even there because he's been mentioned. That one's a little odder, but I kind of get it there too. So
he needs a new contract.
Yeah, that's it, right? And then I think if you're the Nets, it's all right. Well, hey, we could get to in the range of. It's a little complicated because it depends on what the draft pick situation is and how much money they clear and take back in trades. But let's say somewhere between 40 and 80 million. Like that's a pretty massive range. Like could be somewhere between that in cap space this summer. So yeah, I think there is a chance that if I'm the Nets, I am like, all right, let's do it this way and let's go. And I think if I'm Brooklyn, it's like the Utah approach of the last couple of years. They were good, they were competitive, but in the end, you're not going to be more than a play-in tournament team, maybe the 8th seed at best. That's not really where you want to be. No. So if you can move the vets, you move the vets, fall down. Good news is nobody's really run away from them. And I said this to a Nets fan just yesterday. You don't need to be horrifically bad anymore from day one with the flattened lottery odds. You just got to get yourself down into that top 3 range. I'm going to throw one out though. Can I go to one? Philadelphia. Yeah. How long, if you're the Sixers, do you give this before you say, yeah, hey, forget it. Let's just, we'll take our lumps. We're going to lose games and figure out. And let's know before you answer, top 6 protected pick. If they're not in the top 6, they lose their first round pick. So
it goes to OKC.
How long do you give it?
But see, what does that look like if they sell? I mean, are we talking about trading Paul George? Are we talking about trading Joel Embiid? Probably not, right? But I mean, do you shut those guys down?
Probably not blow it up, right? So that's right. Fairness to the way the question was phrased. That's more of a we're going to openly sit guys and tank situation, right? So,
well, if that's and then if Joel Embiid is medically healthy, if Paul George is medically healthy, then the NBA gets involved when you're trying to sit those guys. So they're in a tough spot because they have gotten off to the start that perhaps some of the other teams are jealous of. 3-14, their lottery odds look great. They're if they were a tanking team, the problem is they don't want to tank. I think right now, if the Nets and the 76ers could switch places, both franchises would probably be more than okay with it. Yeah. Certainly the 76ers side. But this is the challenge with Philly. At some point, you got to say, well, we've gone too far. Even in the East, we've gone too far. And now we don't have enough runway to make our way up. Now, I don't think we're there right now. But if it's like January 1, and they're still at the bottom, they're sitting with like 5 wins or something like that, then maybe you have to start considering doing something drastic. But again, Keith, how much of this could be problematic if Embiid is ruled to be physically able to play or Paul George is ruled to be able to play and the NBA steps in and says, you need to play these guys, and then they accidentally win too many games? It's a very tough needle to thread here.
Yeah, so really good question by Ryan in the chat. Can Morey tank while keeping his job? Yeah, that's fair. Like, they wouldn't know that. You obviously, if you're Daryl Morey and you are Nick Nurse as the team's leadership on the basketball side, you're having this conversation with ownership to say, hey, can we do this? Are you on board with this? Because if they're like, hey, wait a minute, we committed like, $1 billion in salaries to this team. No, like obviously not this year. I'm talking in long-term salary, but no, we're not giving up one full year and bottoming out. like then I think they can, say, all right, then we just got to keep doing the best we can and try to win. And if it happens, it happens. It is what it is. But I think there's also a conversation worth having. It's probably a month from now. It probably is right around the first of the year where then you take stock and say, all right, where are we at? But what that'll be roughly what 20-ish more games or so. In that range, probably. So what you want to do is you want to get to that point and then look around and say, all right, are we sitting here with we're in a spot where it is all right, it's we've got 6 wins and we're 6-28 or whatever, and now we're like not in a great place and we're 6 games out of the play-in tournament and all that, then maybe you look at it. I think they'd be okay on the NBA side with Embiid because you could just shut him down and be like, look, he has a knee, chronic knee thing. We're going to figure out. And Paul George, you probably get a little more wiggle room. The challenge would come if it was like you're trying to sit Tyrese Maxey or Jared McCain and those guys. That's, and they don't trip you up on the player participation policy because they're not at that level. So that's the other, I guess, good news there. But yeah, I think you play it out for another month and then you take stock of where you're at and kind of go from there.
Yep, that's exactly how you're going to have to play that if you are, man. I mean, Keith, I feel for 76ers fans. This has been just the season from hell for them. This is I mean, you went from the expectation being you're going to be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. I thought they would not be, especially once the early injuries popped up. I thought, okay, this team's going to struggle a little bit more, but I mean, nobody was predicting this, 3-14 here. Yikes. Yeah. And we'll see what happens here moving forward. It's going to depend on how things look. I guess let's take a quick peek at this.
But let's do this real quick just to answer the question from Squid in the chat. Doesn't OKC have the Sixers pick? It's top 6 protected. So if we get into that range, we'll be calling them the Philadelphia top Sixers, and then we'll figure it out from there because that's going to be what we're focused on.
The top Sixers.
Like, yeah, right. Like realistically. So we'll really be, looking at it. I mean, that is not an easy schedule coming up either. Orlando twice. You've got Cleveland, San Antonio, Boston. That's before West Coast trip. Looks a little more favorable than maybe it did previous at the end of the year. But yeah, that's a rough go there for the Sixers. None of those games, especially with if you're not going to have Embiid, you're not going to have Paul George. None of those games are going to be easy victories for them.
Boy, how bummed does the NBA have to be about their Christmas Day selection for Celtics and Sixers? That's going to be just take a break and go, eat dinner with your family or whatever, rather than must see TV for sure.
Get your nap in if you need to.
Yeah, exactly.
In the marathon day. And then just because it's on there, they've got the Hornets coming up. This is the Hornets are playing the Knicks right now, live game. So if anybody wants to throw on NBA TV, we'll be keeping an eye on that as we go. This is the Hornets starting 5 today. Moussa Diabate at center, two-way guy. Tijan Salon, rookie, starting at the 4. Josh Green at the 3. Brandon Miller at the 2. And Vasily Micic, point guard, who has not really been in their rotation, is starting at the 1 today because LaMelo Ball is out. Let's see. Mark Williams still out. Miles Bridges out. Trey Mann out. Grant Williams is still out. So, not good times. And yet the Knicks only have 5 points in the first 4 minutes of the game.
The Hornets are up 7-5. Yeah. So if the Hornets can find somebody just to pull the plug out of the wall right now, there you go. You can get away with the win. So, that's pretty rough. Not the way. Maybe they just ate too much yesterday. That's the problem with the Hornets. They ate too much.
Yeah. But you give the so maybe those 2 Hornets games are a little more winnable than they maybe look. Sure. But yeah, that's not a great schedule.
LaMelo Ball, by the way, has been great so far this year. He's been putting up big numbers. So
can I counter that?
Sure.
LaMelo Ball's stat lines look pretty good.
Yes.
But he is, I don't know. Like he is really fun. Like, don't get me wrong on that. Like, super fun to watch. But like 43% from the field, 35% from 3, not bad. but it's volume based with him. And his fouling in defense it's insane. I think he's fouled out 4 times already. He is like the highest foul rate in the league, and that's almost exclusively reserved for big guys who protect the rim, who pile up. Even the better defenders tend to pile up fouls. Like it's crazy. He's averaging 4.1 fouls per game as a guard, perimeter-based guard, and he's fouled out multiple times. Like I don't know. I feel bad throwing cold water on that, but I saw that all over social media yesterday as I was just kind of poking around, and there were a lot of people like, "Oh, he needs more credit in the MVP conversation." I was like, "Whoa, wait, what are we doing here now? Like, come on now, let's all breathe for a minute." Super fun player. I'm glad he's healthy, but gross.
Yeah, I'm not expecting the Hornets to be something great this year. So he's a fun player to get out there and watch. But averaging 4 fouls per game, but he averaged 3.6 fouls per game last season. And then you're right.
He's been benched multiple games in the closing lineup because Charles Lee has said he doesn't play defense and he fouls too much. Like, I can't have him on the floor. Like, that can't be. That's why I'm like, in my mind now, if you ask me, Brandon Miller is their franchise guy. It without a doubt, lock it in 100%. You're building everything around Brandon Miller. And if anybody, I don't think anybody should be untouchable on that team. But if anybody was close, it'd be Brandon Miller.
So do you think then, if that's the case, it's now Brandon Miller's team, is there a potential move with LaMelo Ball?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're obviously not giving him up unless you get something good in return, right? So and I don't know how many, if you're a contender with that fouling, with the lack of defense, the kind of inefficient play, I don't know that you can be like, yeah, let's go all in on LaMelo Ball as being our kind of guy to, lift us to a new level. Yeah, if you're a middling team, like, yeah, maybe then you can jump on it. But yeah, it's I don't know. We'll see.
Keith, a little bit of non-NBA breaking news. The Bears just fired Matt Eberflus, their coach. Yeah. If you saw that game yesterday, you know why.
Why. I can manage a clock better than that.
Oh my God.
Anything about football anymore.
That was so bad. That was so bad.
Hey, speaking of Thanksgiving, over on the basketball bulletin, I put up a post that yesterday went up, and still it's evergreen. You read it today if you want. It's every one or more things that every NBA team has to be thankful for. So even the teams that are having some struggles want one or more things. So check that out if everybody wants to see that. And then our guy here, don't forget to hit that thumbs up.
That's right.
Like Spike.
That's right.
Let's do it.
Hit that like. All right. Keith, speaking of LaMelo Ball, he leads the NBA in 3-pointers attempted by 2 per game.
Yeah.
By 2 per game. The gap between LaMelo Ball and the second most, which should Anthony Edwards be the second most 3-pointers attempted? I don't know about that. But the gap between 1 and 2 is the same as the gap between 2 and 11 in 3-pointers. I mean, 2 attempt per game. That's crazy. That is crazy.
Basically, that's Derek White. It looks like it's just cut off there at 12. He's taking 4 more 3-pointers per game than Derek White, who's also shooting 6 percentage points higher from 3. So is there fouls per game on there? Is that on?
Let me see
on this?
I'm sure that one's crazy too.
Roll over and sort it because it's the DD2. I think that's double doubles.
Yeah,
that's double doubles.
Double doubles, triple doubles. I don't see fouls.
No,
I bet I can find it somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's on Basketball Reference, but whatever. We can move on.
We know he fouls a lot.
We got other stuff than me ranting about things. Jay says, "Are you all wearing costumes at 35K subscribers?" That was for Halloween. We're not wearing costumes in the middle of the year. We do have a Christmas show coming.
We're gonna do a Christmas show. We'll wear Christmas stuff.
We've got some Christmas stuff planned. So we're gonna have we're gonna have some fun on Christmas. We'll probably be a little bit ahead because again I'll be out of town. But we're gonna do it probably a week out.
We can just do it from the ship. You can be out on the deck. And we'll do the show there, and you can be all you're going to be in the Caribbean, and you can be wearing a Santa suit or something like that, the full beard and all that kind of stuff. You might be a little bit sweaty, but they'll come by and bring you drinks. It'll be good.
Sure. Yeah, we'll need about $1,000 in super chat for me to be able to afford the internet that would cost to do a live show from the ship.
I don't even think the ships can handle it. Like I've had decent, like the last cruise I went on, I had decent luck with the Wi-Fi and uploading. Like, normally it takes me 2 or 3 minutes to upload a video. It would take 20, which is pretty good. I mean, I'm expecting hours to upload something, but to actually live stream something, probably not possible. At least even with the highest package. Okay. Let's go.
Knicks are still stuck in the mud here. 7. Well, let's see. Cat just buried a 3, so now it looks a little better. All right.
Well, maybe the Knicks ate too much. Davion Nelson said, if DiVincenzo gets traded by Minnesota, can they add another player with him? Do you think Indiana trades Turner, or do they hope he stays? I think the trade restriction for him, that's got to be all but up, isn't it? It's got to be real close if it's not already for the 60-day to be re-aggregated another trade.
But why can't
are they a second-tier apron team?
Right. So then they can't do it. Yeah. Right. So yes, your thinking was spot on. By the time it would matter for trade season, he'd be able to be aggregated with somebody else. But as a second apron team, they can't aggregate put players together. As far as the second part of that, Indiana's made it pretty clear, as far as everything I've been told, they intend to hang on to Miles Turner, and they intend to get him. They cannot extend him again. He's not extension eligible because he's finishing that renegotiation and extension that he did. But they hope to retain him in free agency. And it was funny because I actually was talking to someone there, and they're like, yeah, everybody's like getting thirsty for Miles Turner because it's trade season and that's what happens. And we haven't played that great. They're like, but we would be left with Moses Brown as the only center on the roster who they signed like a week and a half ago. So, it's crazy.
You see, he was actually fairly good for them the other night.
Yes, that's what I was saying. Shout out to Moses Brown, ripping down rebounds left and right. Shout out to Elfrid Payton, signed, starts in his first game. Then his second game, he gets 21 assists.
Which is the high for the season.
Yeah. Like, Good for Elfrid Payton, man. And then he played well. He played well backing up DeJounte Murray the other day, too. And because Murray can play a little bit off ball, they're just begging for anybody who can play minutes in New Orleans right now. They play the Grizzlies today in a single game window at 5:00. Like, that's probably gonna get gross, but Pelicans getting a little healthier at least. So maybe if Brandon Ingram's back, Trey Murphy plays, could be a little bit more competitive. So I wanted to mention that. Sorry. Knicks Hornets. Then we get Cavs Hawks at 2:30. Hawks beat them the other day, so that should be a fun one. So that should be a fun matchup there.
Hey Keith, the Elfrid has to be good this time of year.
Yeah,
the season. Yeah. When you're named Elfrid, you
and he does go by Elf, like at least he did in Orlando. That's what they all called him. So
there you go.
Yep.
There you go.
So
good movie, and definitely on my holiday movie rotation. Elf, such a good one.
For sure. Yeah. I like Elf. Yeah. Elf's kind of funny almost any time of the year.
It is. Elf is up there. But is Christmas Vacation just the top of the list? Is that the all-time Christmas movie?
Because I'm not into the old they had nothing against It's a Wonderful Life and all that stuff that people love. That's just not for me. And the whole is Die Hard a Christmas movie? That's just always funny to me. And I like Die Hard, but yeah.
I mean, Die Hard. I mean, ho ho ho! Now I have a machine gun, right? Like that. Sure. It's a Christmas movie. No, it's just a fun one to watch. But
Christmas, certainly. But
yeah. It takes place at Christmas time. Even though I think Bruce Willis said it's not a Christmas movie, but whatever.
I think so. At one point in time, he did say that.
Yeah, he did say that. But I think it's got to be. It's Christmas Vacation is the top of the list. Elf is certainly there in the mix, and then one we just watched the other night, Home Alone, is just all time classic. That maybe is number 2 for me is Home Alone.
Yeah, Home Alone's right up there.
Christmas Vacation.
The original one though. Not the other ones I don't like. I don't really mess
Keith,
with.
We're into, obviously unscheduled nonsense territory. Have you ever seen Violent Night?
I have not, but I had friends who saw it and they thought it was pretty funny.
It's basically if Die Hard really was a Christmas movie. Basically take John McClane and make him Santa, and that's essentially Violent Night.
Is it the guy from It's the guy from
Stranger
Black
Things.
Widow, right? Black Widow's
Yes.
dad.
Yeah. Red
Yeah,
Guardian. Yeah,
yeah,
it's
Red
him.
Guardian. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
It is.
Funny
I
enough, I
watched
was
it once,
listening
and the
to
whole time I'm watching it, I'm like, this is really this is real. This is really happening. But I started getting into it, and there is a scene in it where he puts together some like Home Alone-esque traps, like very Home Alone style, but they're lethal traps, and it's pretty funny. It's pretty funny.
I'm not gonna put it on the screen because we might get in trouble, but there's a comment in the chat that's very funny from Christmas Vacation.
From Christmas Vacation.
Y'all
Good
can
movie.
check that out and fun. Christmas Story, yeah, that's a classic one. Gremlins, little underrated. That's a Christmas movie, right? So yeah, for
I
sure.
suppose. Yeah.
All right, there it is.
All right,
a little Christmas movie action. Well, I'll get back to hoops.
Let's go here.
Yeah,
Gavin said if Orlando were to trade for Cam Johnson, because that's a rumor that's out there that Orlando could be a landing spot for him, how much would that increase their Eastern Conference contender status? So I think his skill set could fit what they need in terms of the shooting that he would provide. They certainly could still use that. He's a lanky defensive player. Is he a great defender? No, but I think he could fit into their defensive schemes. So I think he would fit pretty well. Is he put them over the top and into that upper echelon? They're probably realistically, they need Paulo Banchero to come back, and then we can make that kind of assessment. Let's see what he's like when he comes back. But I think he certainly would help, and I think he would fit their team. Though it's also, to be fair, he's the type of guy that would fit a lot of teams, I think.
Yeah, he's pretty plug and play with the way he shoots. So I think you could put him in there. I think Orlando. Cam Johnson he's a kind of he can look good defensively at times, and there's other times where he's not very good. But I think Orlando has enough defense around him that they could lift. The big question would be, what are they trading to get him? Because that's $20+ million in matching salary that would have to go out. So it's what are you sending out to get him? That's where I would have to see what does that look like, right? Because if you're talking about like the Magic would not do this, but if it was like, oh, we're gonna have to trade, out Wendell Carter and KCP to get Cam John, like
sure.
Then I'm gonna, I don't really feel so great about that. Or Wendell Carter and Jonathan Isaac or something. I'm not gonna feel as good about that. But if they could get him without getting rid of rotation pieces, the problem is though, they're not sitting on like a $10 or $20 million salary for a non-rotation guy. Outside of the one name to kind of keep an eye on there, if they wanted to make a bigger move, Cole Anthony. He only just in the last week got back in the rotation. He's only been playing very, very minimal minutes because they've really gone with Jalen Suggs and KCP as the starting backcourt. Then Anthony Black and Gary Harris get the backup minutes. They've had some injuries in the backcourt, and KCP missed games for the birth of a child. So when they had those guys out, then Cole Anthony started playing again. Maybe he's played well enough that I would hope maybe he's working his way back in there, but that's something to kind of keep an eye on there. I had somebody say like, well, they've got Mo Wagner's salary sitting around and he's not doing much. And that's not true. Mo Wagner's
doing a lot.
Awesome for them. He's been really, really good for them so far. So that would be the challenge, right? Well, what are you giving up to get him? So that's where it gets a little confusing. Hey, I'll just do it here on the show. I don't have that hard out at 1 anymore.
Okay.
So I'll tell everybody I was supposed to do radio in Chicago, and obviously they've got other things that they're talking about on the radio in Chicago.
Sure,
right now.
that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense.
That's
all
how
right.
we do it in this. Oops, I'm sorry, I just closed yours out.
No worries. DJ said, what do you think about Isaiah Stewart being traded to OKC? I think he'd be a great fit for them. Big man depth while Chet is out and could slide to the 4 to back up Jay Will once Chet comes back. Yeah, I mean,
what are you giving up to get him? Though?
Yeah, that's the question. What are you giving up in order to get him? How are you making that happen?
Million.
But sure, he could be a good fit there. But do we have like an exact timeline on Chet right now? Because by the way, Isaiah Hartenstein, 3 games played, I believe, three double doubles. He's awesome. been great for them.
Yeah. So. Again, I know I mentioned it on the show before, but I'll mention it again. They talked about how because it was a broken hand, Isaiah Hartenstein was able to do all of his conditioning work. So he was, really able to, once it was time, there was no ramp up time needed. It was just he's healthy and he's ready to go, and he looks awesome there. So yeah, that is really really good. Yeah, I was just kind of looking at the Thunder's like roster, 15 million, so you got to get to like 12 million outgoing. So I don't know, Isaiah Joe, I guess would be maybe Aaron Wiggins, but they like those guys. So that's the problem. And I'll tell you, everybody loves to throw Kenrich Williams' name in all these trades. The Thunder, like he's like getting towards being like their version of what like Udonis Haslam was and a bunch of these other veteran guys who they love and they
Nick
love
Collison.
their impact in the locker room. So yeah. I'm going to use this though as an opportunity, guys. If you're we're almost to trade season. We're like 2 weeks from trade season really opening. Those December 15th restrictions get lifted from everybody here in 2 weeks. Use the Spotrac trade machine. I can tell you right now, it is by far and away the most accurate, publicly available trade machine. Players, rosters, salaries, all are accurate. And most importantly, it has accurate trade rules. I continue to get sent fake trades from people. There were people like, oh yeah, let's do this from other trade machines. And the rules are not updated. They're not working with the first and second apron rules. They're not working with the hard cap rules or the salary matching rules. So I know I'd say mine, but it's ours at Spotrac. And we put a lot of time and effort into building it. So use the Spotrac trade machine on spotrac.com to do that. And we'll also shout this out. We'll let you guys know. Follow us on social media. We'll bring it up on the show. We're going to do like a fake trade Friday or something coming up where it's going to be, we're going to ask earlier in the week, send us a bunch of your fake trades, and then we'll evaluate a whole bunch of them and go from there. One last thing in the Spotrac one too, you could toggle restrictions to on, off, or trade deadline mode. And if it's trade deadline, it's whatever restrictions are in place at the trade deadline. So if there's somebody who's got like a year-long restriction, that will still be, on them, but you could turn it there. If you're like, I want to trade a guy, but he's not trade eligible till like January 15th. Okay. Well, just, you can switch it to trade deadline mode and you'll be able to do that.
Right. Exactly. And again, Spotrac is the best one in terms of all of the trade stuff that you could need. So definitely use that one, because then Keith, what happens is people get excited and the trade actually doesn't work, and that's the problem. So definitely use Spotrac because it has all the new rules in there and all of that, and they are pretty tricky when we get into the new collective bargaining agreement. All right, let's go, because we just did DJ's other question. Let's go here. What's Colin Sexton's trade value? So I'll jump over to the Jazz. I don't know if teams are going to be, climbing over themselves to get Colin Sexton, but I could see him being part of a trade package with the Utah Jazz. 18.3 million, 26 years old. I don't think Utah has to move him, but I also think he's the kind of guy that they would move if they can get the right kind of value.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the exact approach you take. You're not out there saying we got to trade him or anything. That probably comes a year from now when he's on an expiring contract, if he's not going to be part of the future. But the Jazz they're simply not good enough right now to worry about, well, we got to sit all these guys. Like, they're just not winning enough games. So sometimes when you're in that spot, you can continue to play like their top 3 salary guys, Markkanen, who sounds like he's going to be okay after that looked like a really scary knee injury, but Markkanen, Collins, and Sexton, really, and Clarkson too. You can still play those guys, help the younger guys along, be competitive games, and still not win too much. So you don't need to be like, we got to get unlike the Nets, where it's like, they get some of these guys off the roster. And the Nets it's not too. The Jazz, their kids are playing. Keontae George starts, he plays. Kyle Filipowski's been playing when Cody Williams was healthy. He was playing before Taylor Hendricks got hurt. He's not only playing, he was starting. So they were in a spot where it's like, hey, we're still getting all of our kids playing time. With the Nets, they don't necessarily have a bunch of kids like that because they're just starting the rebuilding process. But that's where you're not necessarily like, oh, let's bottom these guys out here. But yeah, I think you hang on to them. But if you get the right offer, then 100%, you're like, yeah, let's go. Move on.
Yeah.
right?
And they're that way, I think, with a number of guys on their squad right now. Let's go here. Any backup point guards out there for the Pistons? They're playing really well, but struggling as soon as Cade goes to the bench or misses games. I mean, how about, and I don't know that he really fits the mold in terms of being a table setter for other guys, but you look at the Bulls situation, they've got plenty of guards. What about and he's one of my personal favorites because I enjoy the way that he approaches the game. But what about Javon Carter as a potential low cost type guy to go after, to be an off the bench? I think he should be getting a bigger opportunity. Maybe that's a fit.
Yeah, 100, and that's a very easy trade, right? Because you could just take them right into your cap space. Pistons are still sitting on about 13 million in cap space, so they can definitely do that. That would be very easy for them. So yeah, I think that's a I think that would be a very reasonable low cost move. Like no one's going to be like print the playoff tickets, let's go with a move like that. But that's the kind of that's a very like smart, easy, reasonable move. You probably get a second for them and kind of go from there. So yeah, I like that one. Like they could be a team too. Like they could go get Dennis Schroeder and just be like, hey, we don't have to send any salary back to you. If you don't want it, we can just take him. Colin Sexton could be a guy, right? Like if the Jazz are like, yeah, we're gonna move Colin Sexton. Like again, probably more of a 2 than a 1, just with the way his approach is. But yeah, or let's say Lonzo Ball starts playing really well, and they're like, hey, we just need 15 minutes a night behind Cade. Maybe Lonzo's a fit for the Pistons if if those teams are kind of passing each other in the standings a little bit. So yeah, I think that's okay.
All right, let's go. Let's go here. Why did Jake report Jonathan Motley to the G League when nothing came to fruition? Motley's agent went to London. Yeah, what do you have on this situation?
So it was like a week or so ago, Jake Fisher reported Jonathan Motley was coming to the G League. Why did he report it? Because that's what his plan was. He had left Israel, and his plan was to sign with the G League. That's what he reported. It didn't happen because then they came to agreement for him to stay in Israel. That's basically what that story is. That story came out, I believe it was like overnight. Last night into today, that they came to a new contract and agreed to stay there. So, I mean, that's sometimes that's how that stuff goes. You report what a plan is, and then if it doesn't happen, it's usually there's a pretty good reason why. And I think someone with Jake's track record of getting stuff right or owning when he misses on something, like you can just say, all right, something changed. And in this case, something very publicly changed where they came to a contract agreement that was for far more money than Motley would make in the G League. And he's a fringe NBA guy, good player overseas, not somebody who's really going to be there. I want to pull this one up from DJ because this is a good chance to explain. Just a heads up, there's some error on Spotrac with Paul Reed from the Pistons. Anytime I try to include him in a trade, the trade machine doesn't process him. Trevor, can you pull up on the Pistons cap sheet? Because this will help explain. Paul Reed's contract is non-guaranteed. So when a player is non-guaranteed, they count on the outgoing side for the amount that they are. So he's not going to process. He's going to process a zero in a trade because he's non-guaranteed. So if you want to use him in salary matching, you'd have to they could guarantee him and put him in a trade if they wanted to. But being as it's the Pistons, you probably don't need to put his $7 million. And honestly, if you're doing it, because we don't have the functionality to say let's guarantee Paul Reed's contract X amount and put him in a trade, it would just be a beast to code. Put in
if you need
put in
$3 million, you
guarantee
$3 million, right?
Yeah, exactly. So just put in one of the two guys on either side of him as a placeholder, and that'd work for what you're trying to accomplish. But yeah, but that's why if you are non-guaranteed, you only count for whatever your guaranteed amount is. So that's why he counts for zero. So just little educational moment there using
we go
real life example. All
right.
I flagged a bunch if we want to.
I'm going through them here. Let's go with this one. Can the Raptors aggregate Bruce Brown this season? And I think he's if they can get the right offer for him, I think they'll move on from him.
Yeah,
that was why they picked this option.
Yeah, there's another one. I probably flagged it, I think, but we can just answer it now. who's the most likely to be traded player at the trade deadline. There it is from Jermaine. Bruce Brown or Dennis Schroeder for me.
Yeah.
Like those seem very easy.
Bruce Brown, Dennis Schroeder, Jeremy Grant. I mean, those are probably the ones. And I would
Jeremy
put
Grant a little harder because the contract.
Brown and Schroeder more likely because they are expiring contracts.
Yep. Yeah, very easy to be moved. Barry just checked in. Will Jeremy Grant be traded? It sounds like, we've seen some reporting in the last week that it seems like he's the most likely to be traded, Trailblazer. I don't think the contract is as bad as it looked kind of initially, but it's, I think it's okay. I think he probably sticks there in Portland. Yeah, and you're just pulling it up now. So 29 million this year, 32, 34, 36. Like, not bad.
It's not great either. I think teams are so allergic to long-term salary. Yeah. And that's the concern. So I think he could very well get moved, but I think Portland's going to have to get real about the asking price on him. Like if they're expecting 2 firsts or something like that, like I just don't I don't see that. But and this is where when we say, well, why aren't moves getting done now? Because a lot of teams they're not going to lower their asking price, or they're just not sellers on the market period until we get closer to the trade deadline. And so that's part of it. When like the report came out that the Nets are asking for 2 firsts for Cam Johnson, and people went, well they're crazy. But that's why moves aren't getting made right now, because they know they can probably get 1 first on February 6th if they want it. Like they could probably get that on deadline day. So why not ask for 2 firsts right now and see if somebody will give it to you? And if not, then you can always, if you even decide to move them at all, you can always fall back and get that floor offer in a couple of months. Why not wait and see if somebody gets desperate and gives you what you want? But that's also why people say, why are there not trades right now? Well, that's part of why.
It's part of why. The other reason is like anybody who signed over the summer can't be traded.
Can't be traded.
So it's pretty much December 15th is the unofficial opening to trade season. I always caution saying that too much, because then people are like, why are there no trades? Trade season, it's open. Why?
They're expecting it to be like the trade deadline day.
Yeah, it's not. That's just kind of the unofficial opening. If you've been watching the show for a while, and Trevor's going to be like, oh, great, here he goes with this again. But it is, I always say this, everybody trade prices start up here, trade offers start down here, and as we get closer to trade deadline day, they come more like here, and they become even, right? So if you're looking at the screen, I got one hand way up high where the asks are, one hand down low where the offers are, and they just come to the even as we get to the trade deadline. Everybody wants everything you can get now, and people are like, yeah, we'll trade for Jeremy Grant. We don't like the contract. We'll give you a second rounder and matching salary. And the Trailblazers are like, no, they're probably right now, if I had to guess, probably like, we need a minimum, a really good first and a good young player, or like 2 firsts. And that's not going to happen. So it'll come. Sam checked in and said, I feel like Pelicans, he corrected it, said, got to trade BI. And they've been trying for months, and there's been nothing there.
The problem is all the word is Brandon Ingram expects a lot on his next contract, and nobody wants to be the one to give him that next contract. Exactly. So that's the problem. So essentially, if you're another team and you're valuing him, you're valuing what he can provide for you from now until July, until the summer, however long your team continues to play. And that's probably not enough for the Pelicans to trade him, because you're not going to offer a lot for a guy who, maybe isn't going to be on your team after the summer.
Exactly. I like this one just because it's gosh, I missed it. Man, we had a couple questions jumping quickly there. Alex says, who's the best player the Rockets could get with some combination? He lists a bunch of Rockets guys: Jock Landale, Jeff Green, Steven Adams, Aaron Holiday. Then he added Jayshawn Tate.
It depends on the draft capital you put in.
Yeah, those guys themselves are not going to get you a lot. But here's the thing: those guys, none of them are key rotation players for the Rockets. Closest would be Landale / Adams, because one plays Adams when he's healthy, and then Landale doesn't play when Adams sits. Landale plays, and then Aaron Holiday is kind of like their 10th, 11th guy in the rotation. But that is $40.8 million in basically expiring money. There's the team option on Holiday. Landale's non-guaranteed for next season. So you can get off that money very, very easily. $40.8 million in some tradable draft picks. Yeah, the Rockets can be in play if somebody's available. Here's the issue, though. The guys they want to be available, by all accounts, are guys who probably aren't going to be available at this trade deadline. So I don't know that we see anything happen just yet, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Let's go. Is Santi Aldama available with the Grizz?
I gotta let you just run the thing.
We got both hands on the wheel. We each have one hand on the steering wheel.
There it is. Yeah.
Is Santi Aldama available? I haven't heard anything specifically on Aldama being available, but I know, he's been a pretty important piece for the Grizzlies, especially whenever they have somebody out. He's kind of their default guy that's going to slot into the starting lineup. So I would be surprised if they were like trying to move. I would assume if a good offer came along, it's not like he would be a, hell no, hang up the phone type guy, but he would, I don't think he's the kind of guy that they're out there making a bunch of calls to try to move on from.
Yeah, and they can control that process because he's a restricted guy this summer. So I think that's a definitely a guy that I think they would rather hang on to. It's a good bigger conversation about the Grizzlies though. You've got just kind of a lot of guys I think they'd rather keep. And eventually some of those guys are going to have to move because you're just going to have to start to consolidate a little bit with some of these guys. Because otherwise what happens is then you end up with a really expensive team. And I don't think they want to be a team that's like very deep into the tax or anything like that.
No. Sam wants to know, when will Lonnie Walker be available for a team to sign? Do you know when the out is, or is there a certain amount of time that has to pass before he can get out of his contract?
Yeah, I believe it was either the end of February or like the very beginning of March. It was like within a couple weeks of the trade deadline. So or it might even been the middle of March. But the idea was they set up that contract to see, all right, who's got spots to fill after the trade deadline and what could be out there for us to get out of the deal with Zalgiris over in Lithuania and get out of that deal and then come back to the NBA. So we'll see, but he's actually been playing pretty well. I didn't check this week. I looked at last week. It looked like he kind of started to find his footing a little bit. You can do a quick check here on his stats though. He's at 16.8 minutes per game. So clearly still ramping him up. 12.7 points, 46% from the field. Oddly, shooting way better from three, 52% from three on a little over 4 attempts per game. Not doing a lot else, but he doesn't do a lot else. He's a shooter scorer. So, it's all very small sample size. It's only been 6 games. But, so far so good. He's played in four EuroLeague games, played more in the EuroLeague games and played a little bit, or played well in those Lithuanian league games. He's done a little bit better, but that's to be expected. A little bit lower level of competition there.
Have they talked about Lonzo being on the trade block yet? So that was from Jake Fisher's piece on Mark Stein's Substack. I guess Stein and Fisher's Substack. I guess we're gonna have to change our phrasing on that. But but
Lonzo Stein line, right? Instead,
right. So this is, Lonzo being on the trade block, like, he's got to play. I still, if I'm an NBA team, unless I'm shedding long-term salary, and he's an expiring contract, so unless I'm shedding long-term salary, I need to see Lonzo Ball out on the court playing. Like, the Bulls can say, yeah, we'll consider trading him and that kind of stuff. And that's fine, but everybody kind of knew that yes, they would consider trading him. Same thing with Zach LaVine. Same thing with Nikola Vucevic. The real question is a team trading for him as Lonzo Ball the player or just the contract? And in order to get the former, he's got to get out on the court and show that he's fully back. And I think he probably has to stay healthy for a little bit of time. So I'm not expecting Lonzo to be traded like tomorrow or anything like that. He's probably more of a trade deadline guy after he gets, hopefully, fingers crossed, because I want to see him out there on the floor. I'd like to see him get the month of December, the bulk of January. Then maybe teams will start, talking about that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's got to show if a team's going to trade for him to be more than just we're moving some salary around. If they want to be a rotation guy, he needs to play probably for a month solid and that doesn't mean he needs to play in every game because he's certainly not going to do that, but he needs to play a month solid of he's out there, he's playing in most games, maybe not back-to-backs, whatever, and they kind of go from there. So yeah, I think that is, definitely a thing that's going to have to happen with him. Let me go back here because that's not what I said. I didn't say EuroLeague is a lower level. The Lithuanian league is a lower level than EuroLeague. is what I said. That's why his efficiency is better in the Lithuanian league than the Euro League. The Euro League is obviously the highest level of international basketball. I'll use this as a segue. Did you see the reports coming out of Europe? It was David Kahn, former ran the Timberwolves for a while. Now he's like an owner and CEO of a team in France. He basically said in an interview, and then this was backed up by a bunch of others, that he thinks within like 3 to 5 years, there'll be some form of NBA will have some league in Europe. Not necessarily like a branch of the NBA, but more like probably what the Basketball Africa League is. In Africa, it'll be some version of NBA Europe, and they'll have a league set up there, and they're going to probably start to try to pull some of the best teams from somebody. So it'd be like maybe Euro League, but it's the NBA. He thinks that's going to be how it gets done over there.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so we'll see.
Yep. I wonder how the Euro League itself will respond to that.
Yeah, that's and it obviously didn't go over quite well. Soccer's a whole different thing in Europe, but when they were going to try to do the Super League there, that was a whole different thing there. So with that,
I'll do this real quick. Is it true the T-Wolves can't trade Rudy Gobert at all this season? Yeah, that's correct.
I'd have to check. Yeah,
his trade restriction. If we take a look here over on Spotrac, has the handy dandy little lock next to his name, and you can see he is not trade eligible until after the trade deadline, which means he is not trade eligible this season. So
there it is. Sorry, the dogs are going crazy because we just got an Amazon delivery. So if anybody can hear that in the background. There's what were there some other stuff.
Let's do one more, and then we'll wrap things up.
We can today. Go. I'm good. You probably have stuff to do. I do want to go make a turkey sandwich. That's the best part of Thanksgiving is the after Thanksgiving
the turkey sandwich.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the way to do it.
Maybe not the most popular opinion out there, but that's my favorite part. I like the leftovers best.
We talked about this a little bit already, but just as an aside, you guys doing Black Friday shopping? I'm gonna kind of sort of keep an eye on things, but I've got work to do and stuff like that. So
there's games on now, so I'll be locking into games here. Oh, we'll do this one because this was a super chat. Gabe Vincent, JHS, and a first for Nick Richards and Cody Martin. That'd be an overpay, in my opinion. I would not be
I'd agree
for Nick Richards and Cody Martin.
Right. It's not. I know the Lakers need a center, but
save your first for bigger, better trades than that. Not saying that package is gonna go get you, Miles Turner. Or
it's the first. The value is in the first.
Yeah, the value there is the first. I would hang on to that there.
Right.
More.
So it's not Gabe Vincent and JHS that has value.
Any word Schroeder to Magic and Magic aren't looking for guards. Everybody's still, a lot of people want to put point guards on the Magic. They are very, very happy with the Jalen Suggs at point guard. They think he's got more on-ball juice than he gets credit for. And Paulo will be back soonish, like 2-3 weeks probably. And then they want Paulo and Franz to be the guys that kind of run this. So Stephen Camp asked, what are the Warriors doing at the trade deadline? Sorry, I'm flying through these.
I think they'll be a buyer. Big time.
Yeah, Melton's going to get moved. I feel very confident in that. I kind of ranted on this already once on the show. I don't care. Don't come in my mentions and tell me you can't be traded. I tried to do it on 2K. It doesn't allow me. 2K doesn't let you trade injured players for some unknown reason to only 2K. That's not a rule. Injured players get traded all the time. With that. So it's he'll get moved there. So I think they're gonna move him in a trade to something and then I think what will happen is he'll get moved, his contract will expire, and then he'll re-sign with the Warriors next summer. I think that's how that goes. Because remember, expiring contracts don't trigger the 1-year restrictions with that. So
thoughts on Pelicans, Ingram, and Zion agency change? Yeah, we did.
There's not much. I mean, just it could maybe get trades moving a little bit more. That's often why a guy will change agents if he wants to move. I don't think it changes anything fundamentally with Ingram and extension talks, unless his new agent is like, "Hey, it's you got to lower your price a lot. Like it's not coming for you this summer, then maybe that starts to change the extension conversation. But yeah, more interested if that juices a trade than anything else.
So this question, Fear the Deer, said, should the Bucks go for Finney Smith or Cam Thomas? So the challenge is the Bucks can't aggregate salaries in a trade because they're a second-tier apron team. So like Cam Thomas is much easier to make the math work, not talking about value at all, but just making the math work.
Yeah,
Cam Thomas is the easier guy to go get because he's only making, what is it, $4 million, something like that. Whereas to get to off the top of my head, it's about 15 million for Dorian Finney-Smith. That's where it gets
just a touch under 15, and Cam Thomas is just over 4.
So you only have if you can't aggregate salaries in a trade, unless there's some complicated way to loop in a third team and make some, but otherwise you pretty much have to be sending out like Brook Lopez essentially in order to make something like that work. Like there's no Bobby Portis's salary isn't going to get there to get you Dorian Finney-Smith. Pat Connaughton's not going to get there. It's just it's not enough money going out when you can't attach any other salary. It's not like you can't send out Bobby Portis and Pat Connaughton in a trade. You can't aggregate them together. So that's the challenge for the Bucks.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But keep an eye on Pat Connaughton. I do think there's a chance they move him. He's been more or less moved out of the rotation when they've got guys back. I think that will only continue further. Chris Middleton sounds like he's getting closer to coming back. So yeah, I think there's a chance that we get there. So yeah, we'll see with that. Somebody said Nelson says teams should get Montrezl Harrell. He's balling in Australia NBL. He's been playing well, but he started I don't know if he started a fight, but he got into a fight the other day, and it got kind of ugly. And then after the problem was, he didn't just kind of let it go. He was like, everybody's saying I punched him. If I punched him with a closed hand, he wouldn't, this guy wouldn't be playing anymore or whatever. And it's like, okay, so what are we doing with that? So
yeah.
And then I'll answer this on this. Nope. Chris Middleton, yeah, he should be back soon. Spotrac keeps saying Lakers are a second apron team. They're not a second apron team right now, but they're right there. They're like, what is it? It's not even 45. It's $30,001 away.
Yeah, it's something
they have this went missed by a lot of people, including myself, for a little while. They have a dead money, $15,000 dead money for Jordan Goodwin because he got hurt while on his training camp deal, and that's what the injury protection is. So for the Lakers, on a trade, this is just a good little education moment. We can finish the show with this. In a trade, if you evaluate where the team is post-trade. So if the trade adds money for the Lakers and pushes them over the second apron, that's why they would be a second apron team. So that's why it would fail. And it looks, just off the top of my head looking at this trade looks like it would add money for them. So that's why. So it's post-trade, not second apron today, but if they take on almost any money because they're comically below it, they would be a second apron team.
Well, and they can't take on any salary in a trade anyway because they're a first apron team and you have to send out more than you take back. But I did have one like a week ago, I think it was, where they took back less money than they sent out and it still was triggering them as a second apron team. But I was busy doing a million things at the time and I went, all right, that's odd, but it wasn't enough to where I stopped and really dug into it or anything like that.
Guys, if you see errors, best thing you can do, send me a note. You can send it through Twitter, but my email's in my Twitter bio. Send me what the version was. But you got to tell me what you're doing. You can't just say Lakers aren't a second apron. I can't do anything with that. Tell me what it was you were trying to do, and then we'll try to recreate it and figure out, all right, this is why it's causing it, or this is a real error, and that's why it's doing it. So we'll see, with that. But yeah, I'd have to look at it because Minnesota gets salary from Utah. That doesn't tell me enough. I'd have to really dive in and really look at that. But this one sounds like you might be tripping up on aggregation rules. I don't know.
There's got to be something like that.
There's got to be something in there with that. There was one other thing, but I don't remember what it was now. I don't even see it. So can fines go against cap space from Joe? This will be the last thing we'll do. Fines don't go against cap space, but oddly enough, if it is a league issued fine, that actually comes off what the team owes towards the luxury tax. So if a league issues a fine to a player for $100,000 for something, like Draymond Green, good example, last year had all those games that he missed, that actually comes off of the luxury tax of the Golden State Warriors, because it's a league issued fine. You can't do team issued fines, though, because otherwise it'd be like, hey, we're like $1 million over the luxury tax. Let's just, we'll start fining dudes and knock ourselves out of the luxury tax. So that's why they don't allow it. But yeah, so there you go. But,
all right. Well, I think that's a pretty good show here for Black Friday. We appreciate everybody for joining. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of shopping and doing that kind of stuff. I know there's a basketball. Yep, that's right. You can multitask. You can watch the games while you're doing a little bit of shopping. Now that everybody's online shopping, it's not as much, I know people still do it, but it used to be like way back in my day where we'd be lining up out in front of Best Buy at 1 a.m. or whatever, and then just sitting out in the cold all night. Now you can just do it online, which is nice.
As someone who worked consumer facing, guest facing positions for many, many years over the holidays, that sucks. Like, I don't want people having the day after Christmas or I'm sorry, day after Thanksgiving. It got worse. Remember, for a while there was like Black Friday sales started 6 p.m. on Thanksgiving night.
Yep.
Let people have their holiday time with that. Like, I've done that. I get it. When I was at Disney, like, people pay a lot of money to travel here. Disney's open. You're going to be open, but it's not great. With that. So come on, Bruce. Bruce says neither one of you guys are living in a place where you're sitting outside. I grew up in Massachusetts. Trust me, there was many Black Fridays where we were out there. I remember I wanted to get I was trying to buy a PlayStation one year, and I was out there at like 1 a.m. trying to get a cheap PlayStation, and it sucked. It was
like line up, open and grab it. And then just the chaos when they open the doors and everybody just floods in, and oh man, just madness.
Yeah, that's I definitely don't miss that. Times. So guys, hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. This was good. Glad we were able to do this. We had like 4,000 people hanging out with us, which is awesome.
That's right.
So it tells me people love their hoops. They're ready to go. You got games all the rest of the day today, all the way through into the evening. Last games tip off at 10 p.m. You got games every single hour of the day. So cannot wait with this. So that'll be great.
Exciting stuff going on today. So everybody, thank you guys for joining us. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please make sure you do so, and follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Till next time, everybody, see ya and stay safe.